Part 142. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Ixie. Chapter 1411. Chapter 1411. The cherry blossom necklace given to her. If Panna really sees a doctor here, how much will it cost? If this thing is true, it means that she really got into a wealthy family, so let's be happy. The Lee family even thought about it. Instead of contacting the number directly, they planned to sneak into the hospital to find their daughter first, so that no one could run away. Unfortunately, they found out that Lee Panner had already been discharged from the hospital after they spent a lot of effort to inquire. Just when the Lee couple sighed repeatedly, they were lucky enough to meet the nurse who had taken care of Lee Panner last time. The nurse knew that Lee Panner came from the countryside. When she saw the Lee family, she guessed it. The bathroom told them, tomorrow, the patient named Lee Panner should come to the hospital for review. If you are looking for she can come and see her tomorrow. The Lee couple squeezed the piece of paper with the contact number in their hands and started to plan the next step. From what the doctor said just now, the family seems to be treating Panner very well. Yeah, I heard what she said too. It seems like that girl is really lucky. Then let's wait for her to come tomorrow. The Lee family and his wife both agree with this decision. But now as night falls, their accommodation has become the biggest problem. There was still extra bread and water in the bag, which kept his stomach full for the time being, but it was still cold standing outside in this winter, especially when the temperature would drop at night, and he would shiver in the cool breeze. Let's find a place to stay for one night. In the summer, you can just find a chair to lie down on, but in the winter, you have to find a place with enough shelter from the wind and rain. Fortunately, the Lee family and his wife are used to living a hard life, so they can still endure this little hardship. At the same time, Lee Painter was about to receive the first gift in her life at Yegia, a gift that was completely just for her. The only piece of jewelry I accidentally discovered that night was a very exquisite cherry blossom necklace. However, that necklace was not suitable for her age, and Yeshiruo did not have a sweet style, and Ye Wei had the kind of character that she wanted to buy back when she saw something she liked. At that time, she saw Lee Painter, who was wearing simple clothes, walking in front of her. After walking by, she decided to buy something back. No, I just received the express delivery. Panner, Auntie said she would give you a memory test before, do you remember? Uh-huh. I have prepared everything. We will do the test in a moment. If you get it right, I will give you a gift. Over the years, most of Yayi's thoughts have been on her children. She is very good at educating children. Just like now, even if she wants to give gifts, she will not give them directly, so as not to let the children develop a getting something for nothing thinking habit. Ye Wei prepared 2 memory test questions. One is to shuffle a complete deck of playing cards, let Lee Painter read it and put it on the table, then point out a card at random and ask her to tell what that card is. Lee Painter readily accepted this challenge and completed it very well. The second question is to arrange beads of various colors in several rows, write down the order within the specified time, and then ask Lee Painter to write out the color arrangements facing the other side. Hundreds of beads are in disordered color order. It is really a test of one's memory to remember and write down another good one in just 3 minutes. Yeshiruo was beside her and was sweating for her. Even Ye Qingfeng put down his mobile phone and watched carefully. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Ixie. Chapter 1412. Chapter 1412. She cooks herself. Suddenly becoming the focus of everyone, Lee Painter was not used to it and became even more nervous. She quickly lowered her head, clenched the pen in her hand and clicked on the virtual screen memory. Although she hesitated in the middle, she really memorized every color without missing a word. Wow, great! Yeshiruo applauded happily. This kind of instant memory is not something everyone can achieve. Ye Wei was also very satisfied with the result. He finally took out the gift box hidden behind his back and handed it to Li Painter. You are great. This is a reward for you. The feeling of receiving a reward is different from receiving a gift directly. Have peace of mind about the rewards that you have worked hard for. Thank you, Auntie Ye. Li Painter opened the box with great anticipation, and a light fragrance came out that even the people next to her could smell it. Smell good. Yasuhiro also came to join in the fun. In the box is a very delicate pink cherry blossom necklace. The bead chain is made up of pearls strung together, which is a bit gorgeous. Li Painter did not put it on her neck after getting the necklace like others, but carefully held the necklace in her hand, as if she was holding a treasure. This is a necklace for you, do you like it? Happy, like. I like it very much, the feeling is indescribable. You can just wear it and try it if you like it. But this necklace strung with pearls was too gorgeous and dazzling, and it really went against her simple dress. But Ye Wei had already considered this and replaced it with a thin silver chain. Well, that's great. It can be hidden in clothes in winter and used as a pendant decoration on clothes in summer. Li Painter was very happy to receive such a gift. When she went to bed at night, she held the necklace in her hands and looked at it for a long time, with a silly smile on her face. This is the first gift she has received since she was a child. This period of time has also been a sweet dream for her since she was a child, and she cherishes it very much. Li Painter set an alarm clock before going to bed, so she got up early the next day and ran to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for the Ye family. After Li Painter came here, she didn't think about going wherever there was fun. Instead, she often wandered around in the kitchen or watched the gardeners take care of the flowers and plants in the garden. She spent those hours not for playing, but for observing and learning how to use high-end kitchen appliances, and remembering the placement of various ingredients and condiments in the kitchen. The dishes Li Painter used to cook at home only came from vegetables grown in her own fields, and there were very few condiments, so the dishes she cooked a lot at home are of no use here. Now that she almost understands it, she just wants to do something within her ability to repay the Ye family. Today is Saturday. Li Painter got up at 5:30, tidied up briefly and went to the kitchen. She started cooking according to the operating procedures of the kitchen appliances she saw in her memory, and made some nutritious snacks according to the breakfast habits of city people. At 6 o'clock, the chef went to work on time. When he saw a small figure busy in the kitchen, he was shocked. Miss Painter, what are you doing? Li Painter was startled by the sudden sound, but she still held the spatula in her hand. Turning around and seeing it was the chef, she breathed a sigh of relief. Uncle, I want to make breakfast, can you help me? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1413. Chapter 1413. There is a red mark on your face. Ah. Yasuhiro opened the curtains, stood in front of the window and stretched. I changed my clothes and opened the door. At this time, I happened to run into Ye Qingfeng and go out. Yasuhiro took 2 steps forward and suddenly stopped. He took a few steps back and stared at Ye Qingfeng's face. Brother, there is a red mark on your face. Ye Qingfeng subconsciously touched his cheek, and Yasuhiro laughed. Ye Qingfeng suddenly rolled his eyes. Actually, it's just a small red mark, probably caused by grabbing it twice too many times. It's a minor problem. Yasuhiro touched his stomach again and said, I'm a little hungry. I'll go down to eat first. She walked ahead first, and when she reached the stairwell, she saw a figure walking around busily. Painter, what are you doing? Sister Ye, come and eat quickly. Seeing the table of breakfast, Yasuhiro was startled. Did you do this? No, I just made these two, and the rest was made by my uncle in the kitchen. Ye Qingfeng also came down from upstairs. Yezhiruo waved to him, brother, come here. The two of them tasted it with suspicion and nodded, it's very good. Li Painter smiled happily after receiving the recognition. The originally scheduled examination was postponed to tomorrow due to delays in the attending doctor's work schedule. Ye Wei happened to go out with Yezikin to do some errands, and there were only 3 children left at home. Yezhiruo had to go to the dance class when the time came. Ye Qingfeng also went to the taekwondong class. In the end, Li Panner was left alone at home. In this huge villa, Li Panner's only interest is reading in the room. After reading for an hour, she planned to go out for a walk when she passed by Mo Xiongnuan's room. She couldn't help but stop. The house number has changed its appearance again. From what Yezhiruo said, this house number is changed from time to time. As for when to change it and what it looks like, it all depends on Yezhiruo's preference and mood. But even now, Li Panner doesn't know where the sister Yezhiruo mentioned is. She was too embarrassed to ask more questions, so she knew almost nothing about Mo Xiongnuan. This room cannot be entered, but she is full of curiosity about it. The housekeeper came over with cleaning tools and found Li Panner standing in front of the door. Miss Panner, where are you going? Me, I've been reading for a long time, come out for some air. Okay, Madame Ye has told me that if you need anything, just tell me directly and I will try my best to meet your request. Thank you, thank you. Li Panner took a few steps back and saw the housekeeper taking out the key, opening Mo Xiongnuan's door, and carrying all the cleaning tools inside. Li Panner stared at the door curiously, vaguely seeing the pink walls inside. The housekeeper stood at the door and smiled kindly at her. Miss Panner, because Madame has given special instructions, no one is allowed to enter this room at will, so I can't invite you in. I'm sorry. This sentence is a tactful reminder to tell her to leave. Li Panner nodded and immediately turned around and left the place. Mo Xiongnuan's room is always cleaned by a dedicated person, and it is always locked so that no one else can enter. Li Panner went to the garden and strolled slowly to the piano room. 4 members of Yes family can play the piano, and the ones who come here the most on weekdays are Ye Wei and Yezhiruo. Li Panner stood outside and could see through the glass 2 pianos, one black and one white, inside. She felt a sudden longing in her heart. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1414. Chapter 1414, Teach you how to play the piano. She felt warm in her heart as she imagined the black and white keys dancing on her fingertips, making a sweet sound. The piano room is inside the villa, and you only need to enter a simple password to enter. Yezhiruo once told her the password, and based on her memory, she remembered it very clearly. Li Panner reached out and pressed the digital code on the door lock, and the door opened as expected. She has seen others playing the piano on TV, but she has never experienced it herself. Sit on the chair and put her feet up. A finger fell on the white piano key, making a crisp sound. She seemed to find pleasure in pressing the piano keys, and the tone of the piano kept going up. Doremi is trembling. The little face is filled with a smile from the heart, very real. Ye Qingfeng, who didn't know when he appeared, stood behind her and watched quietly. Li Panner found the tone of the keyboard, but she couldn't understand the staff on the map. When I was in the countryside, the only luxurious musical instrument in school was the electronic keyboard, and the music scores at that time were also simplified numbers. She plays according to the key's vocals, and the string together is not bad. The fingers are naturally bent and the back of the hand is arched. Seeing her irregular gestures, Ye Qingfeng couldn't help but ask for advice. Li Panner suddenly looked back, made a twitching sound, and was startled. Her naturally cute reaction made Ye Qingfeng couldn't help but laugh, Some people say that when you stay deep, you will become cute. It's true. Yeah, brother yeah. Why are you here all of a sudden? Ye Qingfeng just asked casually. When Li Painter heard this, the alarm bell rang in his heart. He quickly moved his stool and stood up, and kept apologizing. Yes, I'm sorry, I, I, I just saw it when I walked here, see, feel. Stop. Hearing Li Painter's intermittent words, you can tell how nervous she is at the moment. Ye Qingfeng stretched out his hand and made a pause gesture. I know what you mean, no need to explain. Li Painter nodded and kept apologizing. Yes, I'm sorry. Ye Qingfeng breathed out lightly. You don't need to apologize to me. What Ruruo said to you means that our whole family agrees. Since she told you the room password, it means you can come here at any time, so you are right. Thank you, thank you. Although hearing Ye Qingfeng say this made her relax a little, she was still extremely nervous. Li Painter is standing here, neither sitting nor walking. Ye Qingfeng is the best at understanding people's thoughts, and Li Painter writes all his emotions on his face and doesn't know how to hide them at all. Ye Qingfeng asked her to sit down. Li Painter didn't dare. Ye Qingfeng took action directly, grabbing Li Painter's shoulders with her long and powerful arms and moving her to the piano. Sit down. After this voice command came down, Li Painter sat upright like a punished student. Perhaps this naturally silly reaction amused Ye Qingfeng. He chuckled twice, and the surrounding atmosphere relaxed. Li Painter's current expression is probably, kk. Innocent face. Ahem. Clearing his throat, Ye Qingfeng began to pretend to be deep. When playing the piano, you generally sit on the front half of the piano bench. Keep your body at a comfortable distance from the keys, not too far or too close. Put your hands on the keys, and let your arms and shoulders droop naturally. Your forearms and the wrists are parallel to the keyboard. When playing, the body can be tilted forward slightly to keep the body's center of gravity forward, so that you can be in an active playing state. Ah! Li Painter moved a few times, but it always felt weird. Ye Qingfeng bent down and grabbed her hand. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1415. Chapter 1415 I'm not shy. Ye Qingfeng bent down and grabbed her hand, correcting her gesture. Li Painter's heart is like beating a drum. It's definitely not because of some girlish shyness. She was so nervous now that she couldn't care less about being shy. Since arriving at Ye's house, Ye Wei and Ye's Hiruo have been the most enthusiastic towards her, needless to say, Yezikan. As for Ye Qingfeng's average attitude towards her, she has always felt that they are not familiar with each other. Now that Ye Qingfeng suddenly helped her so kindly, it really scared her, didn't it? However, when Ye Qingfeng wants to do something seriously, he will try his best. He teaches seriously, and Li Painter gradually listens to it. In the following time, Ye Qingfeng unexpectedly discovered that Li Painter had a very good sense of music. Yezikan taught her how to recognize the staff. As long as she read the tones of a piece of music from beginning to end, she could remember it firmly in her mind. Even Yezikan was shocked, so people with good memories still have this kind of ability. Yezikan and Yezhiruo are both people with high IQs. Their memory and abilities in all aspects are excellent, but at this time, he also had to admire Li Painter's shorthand superpower. I'm afraid it's not a piece of jade. Brother Ye, what did you say? Li Painter played seriously and couldn't hear clearly for a while. Ye Qingfeng shook his head and had another plan in mind. The person who loves music the most in their family is Ye Yi. By the way, brother Ye, didn't you go to learn Taekwondo today? Why did you come back so early? The teacher is absent from class. Ye Qingfeng answered casually, but he didn't expect Li Painter to really believe it. Ah, teacher, can you still do this? Ye Qingfeng snorted and reached out to touch her head. Such an action contained a kind of silent doting, which perhaps even they themselves didn't know. City Center. First People's Hospital. The Lee family and his wife were woken up by the cold early in the morning. After waking up, I ate some cold cakes and started waiting at the door of the hospital for fear of missing out. But they didn't see any familiar figure from morning until noon. Father Lee thought, maybe that person is trying to trap us. Lee's mother responded, what if we missed it? Father Lee nodded in agreement, it's also possible. Let's go in and take a look now. They walked around a few times and finally found the nurse from yesterday. When asked about this, the nurse remembered, the attending physician has gone to study and is not in the hospital today. The Lee family's couple felt like a thunderbolt from the blue sky when they heard the news. How did that happen? That's quite an explanation. Lee's mother was angry at the nurse. Sister, that's not what you said yesterday. Doctors' matters are not something that we nurses can ask at will. If you want to find someone, you can either wait a little longer or contact us yourself. Hey, why do you talk like this? Why don't we just ask, what does this attitude mean? Sorry, I'm still working, and the person you're looking for is not within my scope of work, thank you. This nurse was angry when she served Lee Panner before, and now she doesn't have a particularly good attitude toward the Lee family and his wife. The Lee family was stubborn at home, and they couldn't show any skills outside. They muttered and finally had to discuss it among themselves. They took out the piece of paper with contact information again, and finally called the number on the piece of paper. That is. Yes, only mobile phone number. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1416. Chapter 1416, after all, we have to return to the countryside. The phone vibrated in the bag. Ye Wei is currently in the company receiving guests who have just come from abroad to discuss cooperation. The Lee family's couple's phone calls were not answered, and they were heartbroken. That Ying's Heshan must have deceived us. Call him now to find out. But our interprovincial calls are very expensive. Then what do you think we should do? We are all here regardless of whether we can find hope or not, we must find a way to recover these losses when the time comes. You're right. The selfish couple only remembers the pursuit of welfare. But when they called Dr. Ying on his cell phone, Dr. Ying took one look and simply hung up. Don't give up yet. Dr. Ying's wife asked in confusion, what? Whose phone number is it? It's from the Lee family. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense to them. You did the right thing. The people of the Ying family really have no good impressions of the Lee family and his wife. As soon as he learned that the two people went to the city together yesterday, he did not intend to reveal any information related to Lee Panner to the Lee family and his wife. Anyway, Lee Panner often contacted him, and he knew that Lee Panner was living a good life now. Dr. Ying thought about it and then mentioned, yesterday when Panner called me, she said that Mrs. Ye gave her a gift. I could hear how happy she was just from the phone call. It seems that the Ye family really cares about her. Not bad. Panner, this child, was born well behaved and was originally a lovable child. It was just bad luck that he ended up with his heartless parents. Yes, that child always asks me about her family situation every time she calls me. I hide it from her, saying that the Lee family doesn't care about her life or death, but she still cares about her. How filial. According to what you said, Panner didn't know that the Lee family was looking for her. If they were found, wouldn't Panner have to come back and suffer again? Well, let's take it one step at a time. The Ye family is kind enough to take Panner in. Once the time comes, Panner will come back. The life when she lived in Yejia was so wonderful, but she always had to return to this backward mountain village. This is a person's life. They felt sorry for Li Pan'er, but they did not have enough ability to reverse Li Pan'er's fate. But for Li Pan'er, having this adventure in life can be regarded as a good time worth remembering for a lifetime. Li Pan'er, who is currently living in comfort, doesn't know that her good life is about to end. Ye Qingfeng taught her how to play the piano, and she discovered that she was full of love for this instrument. She originally liked listening to music and singing, but she didn't have that much leisure time at home. Everything she does now has stimulated her potential little by little. Even someone as arrogant as Ye Qingfeng couldn't help but applaud, and finally gave a thumbs up and made a sign of 666. What a master! The memory speed is beyond ordinary people, and he can even perceive music so well. Although she was not familiar with the movements when playing the music, she learned 2 pieces with shorter melodies in just a short time. Tisk, talents can be cultivated. Ye Qingfeng thought that this kind of talent should not be buried. Since Li Pan'er's life is so miserable because her family is poor, they can provide financial support. According to how much Ye Weiwei and Yezhiruo like Li Pan'er, they must readily agree. Ye Qingfeng touched his chin and nodded again. Etc. How could he have such an idea? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1417. Chapter 1417 Ye Qingfeng's sister control attributes. Ever since Li Pan'er appeared, he has always had a curious attitude. When did he become so kind? He helped Li Pan'er think of his way out. Li Pan'er is just a stranger to him, not worth his time at all. Probably because of her arrogant thoughts, Ye Qingfeng forced herself to put away the overflowing sympathy in her heart and walked out of the piano room. When Li Pan'er finished playing the last note, he turned his head happily and wanted to talk to Ye Qingfeng. But when she stopped and took a look, she found that Ye Qingfeng had walked to the door at some point. Brother Ye, this song. Stop, I'm going to take Ruruo home. I'll talk about other things later. When the younger sister controls her older brother's thoughts, the younger sister is the most important. Okay, brother Ye, please go quickly that night, so as not to keep sister Ye waiting anxiously during the time she came to Ye's house. Li Pan'er had already clearly understood how much Ye Qingfeng loved Yezhiruo. She felt that Ye Qingfeng loved Yezhiruo. This is normal. Ye Qingfeng took a few steps forward and then suddenly stepped back, standing at the door and knocking on the door deliberately and making a sound. Do you want to come together? Huh, Li Pan'er couldn't react for a moment. Ye Qingfeng pretended to be casual and said, it seems that you haven't gone out since you came to Yejia. Do you want to go out and get some fresh air? Okay. As soon as he heard this, Li Pan'er ran towards him excitedly. Getting in the car as soon as she left home, Li Pan'er turned her head and looked out the window the whole way. Ye Qingfeng has been playing games on her mobile phone. Occasionally, when she glances up at her, she finds her staring outside. He asked curiously, what are you doing? Is it so beautiful outside? Li Pan'er turned to face him, showing her teeth and smiling authentically. Every scene the car drives past is different. I have never seen it before. When Li Pan'er was 3 or 4 years old, her family lived in a remote area of the city, and occasionally visited the main city. Later, the Li family moved back to their hometown in the mountains, and Li Pan'er never entered the city again. The memories of my childhood have been worn away by time, and not even the memories are left. When she grew up, the only time she clearly remembered going to the city was when she represented her primary school at the anniversary of Egg College. But the scope of activities that time was only within the campus, and I had a little free time and was still sick. I was still sick when I came to the city this time, and I was so dizzy that I didn't have the energy to appreciate the scenery. Now when I come out, I'm full of curiosity about the surrounding high-rise buildings. Ye Qingfeng was completely unable to understand Li Pan'er's previous life, but he could tell from what Lipaner said inadvertently that what she had tried and experienced was too little. These were ordinary things for them. In Lipaner's eyes, it was all so incredible. When getting on the elevator, Lipaner couldn't even press the elevator button, so she could only follow Ye Qingfeng silently, not daring to walk around or say anything. At this moment, she was no longer looking around. Ye Qingfeng joked casually, "What? Just now you were mesmerized by the car driving so fast, but now we are walking at a slower pace and you are doing nothing." Hearing this question, Lipaner blinked innocently, bit his lower lip and said, "I'm afraid I won't be able to keep up with you for a while." Ye Qingfeng. It is also a talent to be able to give such a reason. He stood there and took a deep breath, then suddenly reached out and grabbed Lipaner. Sister control attributes are innate, ha ha ha. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1418. Chapter 1418 I won't let you get lost again. Lipaner's eyes suddenly opened wide. He. He actually shook her hand. Those hands were so warm, completely different from her cold body temperature all year round. Ye Qingfeng could count all the hands of the opposite that she had held since she was little. Except for the elders, there were only, biological sister Yezhiruo, god sister Nangongyu, and little sister Beijiyu. Now there is one more Lipaner. Everyone's touch is different. Elders, for example, mother's palms are gentle and safe. Yezhiruo and Nangongyu are about the same age as him. Because of their well-balanced nutrition, all parts of their bodies are very healthy. Their fingers are slender, neither fat nor thin, and they have perfect bodies and heights. Little sister Beijiyu is just a little baby in his eyes, holding a soft and delicate baby in her hand. As for Lipaner's hand, he held it as if he were holding a bone. Thin means being very thin and feeling like there is no meat at all. This is not a healthy body. Ye Qingfeng sighed silently in his heart, well, just think of it as doing one good deed every day. He has nothing to do today and he can get a good person card. Ye Qingfeng shook his head. Seeing that Lipaner was still looking at him blankly, he reached out and shook his hand. Are you stupid? Let's go. I won't get lost now. With someone holding her hand, she can look around with confidence. The elevator went up to more than 10 floors. After entering, there were doors one after another. Except for the different numbers on the house numbers, everything else looked the same. Lipaner felt like her eyes were blurry when she walked past. Got it? Ye Qingfeng led her through the corridor with ease and found the dance studio. He pushed open the glass door and went in, standing outside the guardrail and waiting. He also specifically turned around to explain to Lipaner, this is the waiting area. Except for people in the dance studio, ordinary people are not allowed to enter casually. The dance studio is private but well maintained. In order to ensure the safety and property of the students and avoid random interference by outsiders, their family members who come to pick them up can usually only stand outside the guardrail. And this guardrail is still covered by a solid transparent glass. People inside and outside can see each other, but the sound is slightly isolated. Okay, we're early, we probably have 20 minutes left, just wait. Ye Qingfeng let go of Lipaner's hand, sat down on the chair behind him skillfully, took out his phone and started to play the game. Lipaner was still leaning against the glass guardrail, staring intently at the dancing girls. She saw so many new and novel things today, which was really eye-opening. There are quite a lot of students in the dance studio. Some directly lift their legs and lean on their shoulders, while others do not need any help to lower their backs. She also saw that Daishiruo was standing upright, but suddenly his legs spread apart and he made a split horse. Wow! Yeshiruo opened his mouth in surprise. She can also dance, but all she has learned are group dances taught in school, relatively simple movements, and she has never received professional training like them. She suddenly wanted to give it a try, but there were other people around her, so she could only give up. Yezhiro started packing her things after her classes ended. Li Pan'er called Ye Qingfeng several times, waved to Ye Qingfeng when he raised his head and reported the situation. Sister Ye is coming out. Let's talk about it after we come out. He has long been used to it. Li Pan'er pursed her lips and continued to stand at the glass door, but she didn't know that others were already staring at her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1419. Chapter 1419. Looking for a little milk baby to be my wife. Li Pan'er didn't understand much when he arrived, so he silently took 2 steps back and stood next to Yezhiro. A friend who was training in the same dance studio as Yezhiro pointed at them and asked in surprise, "Wow, Ruruo, don't you think it's your brother who brought his little girlfriend?" Aha! Yezhiro stopped packing his backpack and turned around to look. When he saw the small figure, he knew the identity of the person coming. She smiled and shook her head as she faced her friend. "No, that's a little sister of mine." The female friend clapped her hands happily and said, "That's great. I thought your brother would find a girlfriend now." Yezhiro teased, "Oh, you are still thinking about my brother. Didn't I tell you a long time ago that he has a little wife?" The girl shook her head in disbelief. "Is that the 5-year-old baby you showed us the photo of last time?" "I would not regard a 5-year-old baby as my love rival even if I regard all the girls in the dance studio as my love rival. Because Ye Qingfeng has a face that is the trouble with men, many girls in the dance studio are openly and secretly in love with him and regard him as their male god. Some people have clearly stated that they want to pursue Ye Qingfeng as their boyfriend." Yezhiro once took out Beijiyu's photo and sighed at an unwritten agreement made long ago, but no one in the dance studio took it seriously. Actually, if you think about it, even Ye Qingfeng himself didn't really consider Beijiyu as his future wife. It was called stubbornness when I was young, I have to admit it, but the older I get, the more rational my thinking becomes. They are 10 years apart. Do they really wait for a baby to grow up before slowly falling in love? Thinking about it, I regarded those words as a child's joke. "Okay, I won't fight with you today. I'm leaving first. See you tomorrow." "Okay, see you tomorrow." The friends waved to each other, packed up their things, and went home. Yezhiro ran up to Ye Qingfeng and Li Pan'er lively with a shoulder bag on her back. Li Pan'er greeted them with a smile, while Ye Qingfeng was still playing games with his head down. Yezhiro reached out and snapped her fingers in front of him. "Waiting." Ye Qingfeng's game is fiercely fought. Yezhiro raised his hands and stood there without urging, just in time to talk to Li Pan'er. "Pan'er, why are you here today?" "Brother Ye said it was just right to take me out for some air." "That's right, you haven't come out since you arrived at my house. My sister will take you shopping soon." When girls mentioned shopping, their eyes light up. Ye Qingfeng, who had just had a fierce battle in the game, slowly raised his head and showed a desperate expression. "Aren't you? Are you going shopping again?" Those who have experienced it know that shopping for girls is a very scary thing for boys. However, Yezhiro faced him with a very sweet smile. "Yes, shopping." Seeing his finger lift from the game page, Yezhiro asked, "Are you ready?" Ye Qingfeng put away her phone and naturally stretched out her hand towards Yezhiro. Yezhiro gave him the shoulder bag. Li Pan'er silently watched the tacit interaction between the brother and sister, still feeling envious in her heart. Do all brothers love Yezhiro as much as Ye Qingfeng? It would be nice if she also had a biological brother. Oh no, if she had an older brother, she would have been thrown out of the house by the Lee family's parents. They don't like girls anyway. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixey. Chapter 1420. Chapter 1420. Lee's couple meets Panner on the road. Let's go, let's take you for a walk today, I have time anyway. Yeshiro's interest arose and she took Lee Panner around the shopping mall in the city center. She bought whatever clothes and jewelry she liked without any hesitation. Lee Panner never asked for anything from beginning to end. Instead, Yeshiro paid for whatever she thought was suitable. Most things are delivered directly to your home, but small and delicate things are carried by yourself. According to Ye Qingfeng's sister control attribute, he must be reluctant to let his sister carry things, so he naturally became a porter. Wait a minute, let me think about what delicious food is nearby. We will eat outside in a while. Since it's already out, let's just have fun. At this moment, the hungry Lee couple were walking in the bustling urban area while eating dry biscuits. They couldn't contact the person on the phone, and Ying's Heshan deliberately made things difficult, so they didn't know what to do now. Walking aimlessly on the street, looking at the food that was about to bottom out, they became worried. What should I do if I've eaten all this stuff and no one has found it yet? You ask me, how do I know? I can't go back directly. Then our money will be wasted. Why don't you try giving that rich guy a TV? I called 3 times but no one answered. It must be fake. What should I try? Father Lee became impatient. Mother Lee lost her temper and sat directly under the tree next to her. The two of them were irritable and murmured, "This Lee Panner doesn't know how to contact his family even after he gets better. Maybe he will even forget about us if he gets married to a rich family. They are all good daughters you gave birth to. I gave birth to him. Hey, do you want to end the relationship now? That girl has always had a weak temperament and she doesn't know who she has followed since she was little. Hey, I think she is just a freak, nothing like us." If Father Lee hadn't seen the child born from his wife's belly with his own eyes, he would have suspected that he had picked it up. Well, they sat under the big tree and watched the passers-by. Energetic children, young lovers with sweet smiles, workers in a hurry, and old people in their 60s. They each have their own life characteristics. The Lee family couple looked at these people and felt very envious. Mother Lee opened the kettle and raised her head to drink water. The moment she raised her head, she suddenly seemed to see a familiar figure. Mother Lee's eyes widened immediately. Old Lee, look." Father Lee stood up lazily and asked with an unhappy look on his face, "What? I thought I saw Panner just now." After hearing what Lee's mother said, Lee's father looked around for a few times, but didn't find anything unusual. "Are you wrong? Haven't you heard people say that this is the most prosperous city center? I hope you can come here. Isn't she following a rich family? What if?" Mother Lee firmly believed that she was right, so she picked up the bag and walked forward. She began to look for familiar figures in the crowd. Father Lee had no choice but to follow him. Anyway, their only purpose now was to find Lee Panner. Yeshiro dragged Lee Panner through the business district, and after dinner, she said she would take her to the cinema to watch the latest movie. "I heard from my friends in the dance studio that the movie is very good and there are Easter eggs in the ending. Let's go watch the movie now. I went out to participate in the Hanfu tour today and saw 100 Hanfu ladies. I was very happy." End of this chapter.